Hi guys, and welcome to the 7 Money Show with me, your host Sean. Now, here today we've got a second part of earn a dividend every day. Now, how did I do this? What I did was I scoured every dividend paying stock of the S&P 500 and I put in the ones which have increased their dividends in the past 5 years. They had to reach certain criteria, and it flagged up 366 stocks. I then went for the ones that are considered to be either the highest paying dividend stocks or the lowest ratios, or the ones with the best balance sheets. Now, I think you'll see why when I go through them. You will see that this isn't a recommendation to buy them. I will not be buying all of these. You can substitute them with other companies. You'll see why I say I will not be buying all of these, but this is merely if you want to have a dividend paid to you every day. And I put it into my spreadsheet to work out which one's paid on which days, and basically it threw out enough for 3-4 videos. Why am I bringing this out now? Because these ones are for December, November, December, January, February, and so on. Anyway, let's get into it. We have Iron Mountain Incorporated. Now, this is one that a few people. Now, I actually spoke out about this earlier in the year when it was here, when it was up here and up here, saying that it was overbought and there was other better data company REITs out there. So we've had a bit of a pull back, which is nice for us. Now, it gives a good dividend, and we can look at the growth we will get with it as well, with it being in with 5G. Now we have to realize it's not just that these stocks are not just about the company or a recommendation for the company, it's about hitting that dividend date as well. So we go on to the next one, Altria. Now remember, I was one of the first to speak out against Altria being a dividend trap, but the thing is, the reason against Altria was that until the recent dip, when it was up here, it was paying the same amount as AT&T. And in my opinion, Altria would decrease in value. AT&T would increase in value because of 5G and other factors and streaming. And it was more diverse. Altria was one of those that kept up in this dividend to attract people. Now it's gone from 7.8% to 9%. It's reduced, and again, it hits, being a dividend aristocrat, it hits the dividend date. I originally bought at 37, and then I sold at 43. I don't hold it currently, but it holds a stake in Anheuser Brewer and Cronus. Now, with it looking like Biden may get in, Cronus may well go up, meaning Altria may well go up, or at least may become more profitable. which may stabilise it, allowing it to invest in more companies to diversify its company. The thing is, if you look at it, you see it's a downward trend. You're only in it for the dividend, and there's other dividend payers that pay the same amount of dividend. That's the reason why you're banking on Cronus and Anheuser Brewer. If that's the case, then you may as well go for Anheuser Brewer. But it's not about that, it's about the dates. Anyway, let's move on. Guys, welcome to the Savvy Money Show with me, your host Sean. If you want to help support the channel, don't forget to smash that lovely like button, and don't forget to hit the bell notification if you want to be reminded of when a video gets uploaded. And why not smash the sexy subscribe button? A lot sexier than me, just ask the wife. And because I upload multiple times a day. And while you're at it, why not comment in the comment box down below. I'm also putting a load of free links in the description box. Why not check them out? And if you're looking for a free trading platform on which to trade your stocks and shares, why not check out Free Trade Trading with 212 and Stake. You get a free share worth up to £200 or dollars for signing up and depositing a small amount. So Devon Energy. Now, for considering it is where it is in the oil industry, of course it's down. It has a 4.56% dividend, which it should pay in December. Now, it was $27 a share, and now it's at $10 a share. The forecasts are that in a year to a year and a half's time, oil will come back, because they think all these production cuts will have an effect. By then people will be using oil again, and that by then we will end up having a demand that the supply will not be able to deal with. It's a company that has over $1 billion cash on its books, and so it should sustain it. However, personally, I think again it's only because it hits the dividend date. It gives a 4.5% dividend yield. You have the fact that it's undervalued. If you look at its price to book, or you look at its where it was, if you just compared it to last year, that wouldn't be the right way to compare it, because plenty of companies compared to last year are not. That way you go by the price to book, and you've got a company that might be worth taking a chance on. But personally, I think there's plenty of other companies. Well, but we have to hit a day for this video to work, so we go now. Kcac, well, 5.9%, and we have the fact that it's down 30%, and so we get that yield back over the time, like the price yield, and we get the dividend yield. Now, it's a company that has been hit quite a bit, but should come through things. Omnicom. Now, this is a company that a lot of people had on, was a staple of their portfolio, but you can see here how it's about 40% off, because even though it gives a 5.43% dividend that will be paid at the end of the year. And why is it? Because it's in advertising, digital advertising, things like that. But the first thing that goes with companies is advertising. We saw when Facebook and Google got slashed in March and April, it was because of the advertising. So thing is, it has cash on hand. It can make, if this Rona situation carries on, it can make acquisitions to diversify into other areas. But again, it's undervalued, so you have the price increase. At the same time, you have the dividend yield, which is good, and it could be a good growth company to have for the long term if you can just afford to leave the cash there. Now, Archer Daniel Midlands. Now, this is one I spoke about before. You've got an upward trend for the year, which is good. It crashed, then an upward trend. That is a healthy trend. Now, the thing is, this is Dividend Aristocrat. With 1 year off Dividend Aristocrat. Now, is 3.1%. And I did a whole video on this before, and I said how this is something that someone should have in their portfolio. Now, personally, it's near the higher range. I would like a bit of a pullback, but I'm happy to have this in my portfolio. Now, we've got Schlumberger. I know it sounds like someone going into a fast food restaurant and ordering something when their mouth's full, but you know, 3.17% dividend. You know, this is a company that processes low quality grade oil so it can be used. But the good thing about this is, aside from the fact that it's more than 50% of a discount, it also has it's not just based in the US, it's based in the UK and a lot of other countries, but it has miles and miles of pipeline, so it also gets money from the transportation of it as well, not just relying on the processing. So I would have liked the dividend to be a bit bigger, but I think because it's diversified in the field of oil, that is the reason why. Prologis. Now, I spoke about this before, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Now you can see it's near the high valuation. It's 2.19%, but the payout ratio isn't too bad. You can grow that. It has been growing it. Now, CBOE Global Markets. It's undervalued. All financial companies are undervalued because they're out of favour unless they're fintech, and it has a 1.93% dividend, which is well covered. So we have 3M. Now, I've been resisting 3M because I've looked into 3M before and I thought they're at risk of not making a profit. And then Rona happened, and of course, what happened? All the masks had to be 3M. Now, it's at high range, but it gives a 3.67% dividend. They are in 4 separate sectors, so you're not reliant on one sector. So 3.67% dividend isn't anything to sneeze at. They have grown the dividend by 40% over the last 5 years. which I was surprised to see, and it's well covered. Now, this is a bank I spoke about before earnings, when everyone was rushing from banks and talking about getting rid of all the banks. I said, be careful, look at the banks and do a review. I've done countless reviews about the banks, and this was one of my favourite. I had 4 or 5 that I said you should stick with. It gives a 5.95% dividend, which is well covered by its cash flow. Its price to book is 0.75 to 0.8 depending on the day, and you can see it is usually $15-16, and it's now at 10.5. It's a regional bank, and I think it's well worth. Now FMC is a dividend yield of 1.68%, but that is incredibly well covered. They have room to grow it. It's not undervalued, but it can gain in valuation. You know, it can. As a company, it can grow. You can see it's been growing year on year, but this year it's been sideways instead of growing. And look at that. Well, Ventus Inc. Now, this is a company that is, I'd say, 50% undervalued, and has a 4.32% dividend. Now, it's a REIT that deals with medical properties, I believe it is. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I probably am wrong, and but yeah, it deals with like medical offices and hospitals. But there you go, medical office buildings, life science assets. Yeah, there you go. I was right. One as they never cease. But it has a good, a lot of these medical properties are overvalued now, these REITs, because they're kind of guaranteed rent with what's going on, and they give a low dividend. Now, 4.32% dividend is good, and the fact that it's 50% undervalued is also good. Look at that, even over the last 5 years. Look at that. Now, it's one of the smaller ones, I get it, and another energy company, which is a riskier play because it looks like it's on a downward trend, because oil is just so far out of things, is Valero Energy. Now, it's declared regular cash dividend. It has the money to keep paying the dividend. It's 10% dividend, and has a few $1 billion on its balance sheet. But you have to ask yourself, with a 10% dividend, will they be cutting it, or to go into renewables, or are they just going to carry on? Now, the thing is, this is one that refines oil, petroleum as well, and has, I think, quite a bit of room to grow. And when you consider that it's about 60% undervalued from earlier in the year, people who say in 10 years it'll be no petrol. Well, in 10 years it would have paid for itself if it keeps up the dividend. But saying that, I wouldn't expect it to keep that dividend for the next 10 years. I would have to do a lot more research into the company, tear it apart, and see whether or not I think the company can survive paying the dividend without bringing in the money, what its churn rate is. And to tell the truth, it's only in there because it has a 10% dividend. It has enough money on its balance sheet, and it's undervalued, and it hits the day. The other companies for the day are a bit more risky. This will be one for you hold for a few years, and you get a percentage of your money back in dividends. But it's up to you to decide. You have to make that call. Remember, it's not a recommendation to buy any of these. Archer Daniels, Midlands and 3M are obviously my favourite, and when I look at them as for growth, sorry about that, for growth, I like Omnicon, and but that is going to be a long-term hold. But I like Prologis as well, but and Huntingdon. But I will do a bit more research, and then I'll create a pie with the ones I want. What I've done is I've whittled them down to this. I will then do more research and then whittle down the ones that I want into a pie, and then I will guess. For your information, guys, some news that came out: Chevron has invested over $200 million into switchback energy. I did say the oil companies should have, the last few years, invested a percentage of their profits in the renewables. Then it wouldn't have been so big a hit. They wouldn't have noticed it. Now they're noticing it, but Chevron is finally taking the punt. They realise it's good for switchback energy. Charge point is good for. It will be good for Chevron. Now, I will be looking at Chevron if it drops enough, purely on that basis. I do not think that's enough to make it a buy, because it's a small drop in the ocean. But if it drops enough with a dividend, it may make it worth a gamble. But it will be just a gamble. Anyway, that's all from me. Don't forget to hit the like button and comment box below, and I'll see you in the next video.